Let's rewind for a moment, to a week ago, when something that seemed ordinary on the surface stirred a powerful undercurrent across the boxing world. It was just a photo. A snapshot. A candid moment in time capturing Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford seated across from one another, sharing a quiet dinner. No gloves, no press, no tension, just two warriors exchanging more than words. They were sharing space, sharing respect, and sharing energy. But as is often the case in boxing, what appears simple is never without weight. That picture did more than show a meal between two greats. It unleashed waves of speculation, criticism, nostalgia, and confusion. And right at the heart of the commentary storm stood Oscar De La Hoya, a legendary figure in his own right, but increasingly known as a source of provocations rather than insights. Oscar, never one to hold his tongue, lobbed a rhetorical grenade. He framed the photo of Canelo and Crawford as if it were a betrayal of boxing's warrior code. His jab was sharp, cynical, and dripping with disapproval. Can you imagine Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier having dinner together before their fight? He asked, clearly expecting the answer to be a resounding no. To Oscar, that level of respect before battle seemed inappropriate, even detrimental. It was a challenge to the seriousness of the matchup, a subtle suggestion that these men weren't serious enough about the fight if they could sit down and dine like friends. But Oscar's point wasn't just questionable, it was historically inaccurate. His implication that Ali and Frazier, the epitome of blood and thunder rivalry, would never break bread before a war simply doesn't hold water. Because not only can we imagine Ali and Frazier having dinner together before a fight, it actually happened. This isn't a hypothetical. It's a documented moment in boxing history. On January 18, 1974, just 10 days before their rematch, Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier were seen at a birthday celebration. Ali's birthday was January 17th, Frazier's was January 12th, and they celebrated together. Not in secret, not awkwardly, in full view of the public. There was cake. There was laughter. There was even a little person dressed in party gear, adding a strange but real layer to the scene. They weren't enemies at that moment. They were brothers of the ring, bound by respect as much as by rivalry. That detail alone dismantles Oscar's entire premise. It reminds us that boxing's greatest battles have always lived in the paradox of respect and violence. Fighters are not one-dimensional. They are capable of sharing humanity off the canvas and still unleashing war on it. Suggesting that a dinner dilutes the legitimacy of a fight is to misunderstand the complexity of these men. They are not gladiators ripped from myth who must remain hostile at all times. They are artists, thinkers, and athletes who often understand one another better than any outsider ever could. To act like Canelo and Crawford's dinner threatens the integrity of their potential showdown is reductive. It's a shallow take. It ignores what makes modern boxing and boxing history so compelling. These men can respect each other. They can sit across from one another, clink glasses, and smile. But when the bell rings, they'll be ready to tear each other apart, not because they hate each other, but because they love the fight. They respect the craft. And they honor the stage they've earned. Boxing has always thrived at the intersection of chaos and choreography. Press conferences are often just theatrical preludes to the real act. We see the same script play out, insults hurled, shoves exchanged, veins popping with faux rage. It's all part of the show. It's marketing masquerading as emotion. But heaven forbid fighters show mutual respect. Then, suddenly, everyone cries foul. It's labeled as weakness. Detractors whisper that the fight is soft or fake. But this says more about the audience than the fighters. We're conditioned to think violence only comes from animosity. In truth, the best violence often comes from the purest competition, when each fighter seeks greatness, not revenge. Oscar De La Hoya, for all his accolades, has begun to resemble a permanent contrarian. His legacy in the ring is untouchable, but his recent public persona suggests he's become more comfortable in the role of professional critic. And not the insightful kind, the kind that thrives on casting shadows over every glimmer of hope in the sport he once elevated. His issue with the Canelo-Crawford dinner isn't just an opinion. It's emblematic of a mindset that sees authenticity as a threat. He's feeding the narrative that fighters need to loathe one another, that they must be actors in a perpetual grudge play. But that mindset is outdated and harmful. Because here's the truth. The respect between Canelo and Crawford doesn't make the fight less compelling. It makes it more so. It adds depth to the story. These are not two fighters dragged into the ring by business pressures or media hype. They are two generational talents, choosing this moment, this challenge, this risk. And they're doing it with eyes wide open. That's the kind of fight that transcends trash talk. It's the kind that defines careers. We need to start viewing boxing with a broader lens. The sport is already fighting enough internal battles, fragmented belts, controversial decisions, promotional turf wars. When a true super fight is on the horizon, we should be lifting it up, not tearing it down. The Canelo versus Crawford clash represents everything the sport needs: elite skill, legacy at stake, and two warriors daring to test themselves outside their comfort zones. Now, let's talk about Crawford's recent statement. When asked if he was 100% confident he'd beat Canelo, Crawford responded with honesty instead of bravado. "We're never 100%. I'd say 70, he said, without a hint of hesitation. That answer sent some fans into a frenzy. The reaction was split. Some called it humble, others called it weak. But here's the problem. We've been conditioned to believe that confidence must be absolute, that doubt is fatal. That's a lie. What Crawford said wasn't a weakness. It was a masterclass in realism. In the world of boxing, confidence is often inflated like a balloon. Fighters are trained to say, "I'm going to destroy him," even if they know they won't. It's part of the game. But Crawford, ever the strategist, offered something different. He offered truth. And in doing so, he displayed a strength that many overlook, the strength to admit risk and still walk toward it. Because what is bravery, if not confronting the unknown? Walking into a fight you're certain you'll win isn't bravery. That's business. Walking into a war where the outcome is uncertain, where you know you have a chance, but not a guarantee, that's something else entirely. That's where legacy is made. That's where true warriors shine. Crawford understands this. He's not chasing an easy win. He's chasing a defining moment. And that 70%, that's not a concession. It's a declaration. Crawford knows Canelo is no pushover. He's aware of the weight gap, the power disadvantage, and the years of dominance Canelo has enjoyed at higher divisions. But that's exactly why he wants it. Because greatness doesn't live in comfort zones. It lives in the unknown, in the dangerous, in the historic. And for all the doubters quick to mock that 70%, understand this: Crawford isn't doubting himself. He's acknowledging reality. And that makes him more dangerous, not less. Still, critics keep pounding the same drum. They say this fight is a mismatch. They say it's a sideshow. They point to alternative matchups: Crawford versus Ennis, Canelo versus Benavidez. Yes, those would be excellent fights. But boxing doesn't run on perfect matchmaking. It runs on moments. And sometimes, two icons collide not because it's planned, but because they both feel the pull of legacy. That's what this fight is. And yet, the negativity persists. Critics cry that the dinner photo ruined the mystique. That Crawford's honesty weakened the narrative. That the fighters are too friendly, too respectful, and too thoughtful. But here's the question no one wants to ask. What do we really want from our champions? Do we want animosity or authenticity? Do we want theater or truth? Because the truth is this: you're going to watch it. The moment the bell rings, every complaint, every cynical tweet, every YouTube rant will be forgotten. You'll be there, eyes glued, heart racing, because deep down, you know this fight matters. It's bigger than trash talk, bigger than marketing. It's about legacy. It's about two of the best daring to meet when they don't have to. That's rare. That's beautiful. That's boxing at its best. Oh, let's not pretend otherwise. Let's not act like we're too jaded to care. If you love this sport, you should cherish this moment. These opportunities don't come around often. And when they do, they deserve our respect, not our ridicule. Oscar De La Hoya should know that better than anyone. He's walked that walk. He's stood in those shoes. He knows the weight of expectation, the sting of risk. And perhaps, deep down, he does know. Perhaps this criticism is just another form of promotion. Another layer of hype. But if it isn't, if he truly believes that a meal shared before a fight negates its significance, then he's lost touch with what makes this sport so rich, so human, so unforgettable. Ali and Frazier showed us the blueprint. They proved that respect and rivalry can coexist. That warriors can laugh one day and go to war the next. Canelo and Crawford are carrying that legacy forward. They're not weakening the fight. They're honoring the tradition of ADMITS. Instead of tearing this matchup down before it even happens, maybe it's time we celebrate what we have. Two all-time greats. Two pound-for-pound kings. Two men stepping into the unknown, with everything to lose and even more to gain. That's not just a fight. That's the heart of boxing. And if we can't get behind that, then maybe the problem isn't the fighters. Maybe the problem is us. Crawford doesn't fear losing. That's why he's taking the fight. That's why he's walking straight into the storm. Because chasing legacy means risking everything. And win or lose, that's what makes him legendary.